Do you think the Coddle's going mid or support?
Oh, I'd love to see him mid. Is anyone else been playing it mid in Southeast Asia? Because it's just, I know Armel's like the most notable.
Yeah, I was gonna say Armel. I remember his.
Oh, the KP Brew! Yeah, this is good news for me. I love it.
Yeah, you got the Dispel there for the Ink Swell. Not bad.
We also kind of just glossed over the Enchantress there, getting picked up.
Oh, spit on her.
This is literally like one of the first times we've seen her in SEA, and you're like, nope, don't want to talk about her.
She's just like an old tier pro hero. It's just, oh wow, it's Ench again. She's gonna.
Okay, but how does she work with this lineup then? If you don't want to talk about her specifically, what would Talon be placing importance on her for this lineup in this matchup?
They have double Dispel now for Grimstroke. Could be a reason. They might be overreacting a little bit to it. Ench is also just notoriously strong laner. So maybe they just want to bully out. They don't know who's going to be in the offlane yet as support, but both Coddle and Grimstroke don't really enjoy it. But I would say that like Inkswell being able to be purged by 2 sources here is going to feel pretty bad for Polaris here.
I also like Enchantress a lot because like using the creeps, she has a lot of utility for them, especially when with a Medusa, like she can use them to stack lots of camps for her. She can use the creeps to like for vision. You know, if you're able to scout movement by DK and Grim before it happens, that's pretty nice.
I mean, who cares about this Enchantress though? To be honest, I'm spending way too much time on
Jug
is the cool hero here.
Okay, well, I wouldn't. One thing. Okay, well,
don't defend yourself.
No.
We're trying to talk about Jug
I
here.
asked about Enchantress quickly before the Jug was picked. Okay, thank you very much. Then it was going to segue onto the Jug. So let's just do that. All right, let's just move along.
I want to hear everything you have to say about Jug, please.
Alright,
please,
so
please.
Jug is
Enchantress.
Jug is a very fast hero. Very good versus by fast, like he can play early, he can buy Diffusal if he wants. He can go the Battle Fury build. It's really up to him on like how confident he is and to play the early game. It's not good versus Medusa in the matchup to the late game, but I think it'll give him the tempo. And I was talking about like the dispels, right, on the Inch and the Jug, or sorry, the Brewmaster. Jug has magic immunity, so if he does get ink swelled, they can't use any of that. So it will allow them to have like high tempo here. It's what I really like. And if they can use that type of tempo to take some towers with DK and the Juggernaut with the Healing Ward, they could really make this map feel really small for Talon pretty quickly.
Okay. What would Talon need to pick up for their last pick to sort of make sure they don't get rolled over in that earlier fast-paced momentum?
As a mid player, it's kind of hard to like pick a hero versus Jug. My favorite hero to play versus Jug are ones that can either rush Orchid or have early silences. Like Void Spirit's not bad.
Yeah.
It's only okay though. It's pretty tough actually the more I think about it. Because they want some more like when you play versus Jug, you want to like be able to either silence him before he gets spin off, or you want to be able to interrupt the spin with some type of BKB piercing disable. And they're going for like the Orchid route. This one's pretty good too. Like you don't want to rush Manta on Jug. You might have to, and it just doesn't feel good. But if you're playing versus Storm, who has an early Orchid, if you choose to go for that item, who knows if he will. But I just know as playing Jug in my time that if someone gets an early, like 13-minute like Orchid, that's the only way you can really feed on this hero.
Okay.
Now you Storm, yeah.
I was gonna say you have both the drafts. So quickly, Sheep, before I bring in the other two, give me a little bit of a rundown for you.
Rundown for me. Yeah, they both have drafts. I'm a
That's
fan.
true, they do.
Perfect, I like that. And so with that vital information, we will bring John and Mike in and see if maybe they could give us a little bit more information. John, if you want to start, I'm looking for something a little bit more than just this is a draft.
You awesome. Quick rundown.
I mean, you've got the KP Brewmaster, right? You've got KP on a Brewmaster, you've got Savage on a hero that Mike won't call trash immediately, and Savage should be able to scale up on, so I'm feeling confident for Talon. Game 2 was a bit wobbly, Polaris looked really strong. Talon should be able to build up on Savage, and he's going to be able to use that space well.
You guys should have heard how quiet John was after that game too. I mean, there was not a sound being made. I heard him sobbing and weeping. He was sniffling a lot. I think I'm forced to go Talon this game number 3 because if they don't win, I'm not going to have an analyst for our series. So I think Talon has the better draft going into this game 3.
Yeah, absolutely. I love to hear it. For you guys, then, do you want to pick a team for predictions for the series?
I mean, I think Polaris has to get ahead early to win this game. If Savage free farms and they can't deal with him, I think Talon will take it.
Okay, so you go with Talon.
I mean, sure, I think they'll play better, I guess.
Right. I'll go for Polaris then. I think if Lelouch can do really well mid, which I hope so because he got last pick on his lane, like, I'm really scared of like a quick blink DK with a Grim and a Quap and they're just going at it, you know?
Okay, so you're going to be the odd one out here, Sheep. I'm interested to see how this is going to play out. But Mike and John, game number 3. Let's jump into it.
Oh, thank you so much. Now, we do go into game number 3 here between Talon Esports and Polaris Esports. And John, I do believe Talon has the better draft, mostly because I don't believe in Jug as a POS 1 right now. I'm not going to say it's a trash hero, because it's not a trash hero, John, but it's not a very good hero either. And when you're going into the Savage Medusa and the Makoto Storm, I think, and the KP Brewmaster, as you already pointed out, I think you're in for some problems is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it's going to be a toughie. Like, there's an early timing here, and Fear pointed it out. If Polaris do play around the snowball effect they can have early on, push towers really fast with the DK, get the sustain out from the healing ward, it can be tough for Talon to find that space once more, as we saw in game 2, where they weren't able to cross the river, they weren't able to really build farm up, and I think that's what they've got to do here on Polaris. They've got to play fast, they've got to get a really quick build up here on Natsumi, something like a Diffusal, and maybe Diffusal Maelstrom isn't too bad. You could go for SNY as well if you feel like the stat resist is more useful, but just a fast Diffusal Natsumi to threaten Nadusa to get a good slow to play with, it can really set up from that chug. So tempo is the key of the game here for Polaris. Already going for that smoke play as we tend to see them do, but Talon's not quite reciprocating this time around, Mike.
Well, they certainly have the better level 1 timing here on Polaris if they want to go for this 0-minute team fight. So I can appreciate the fact that Talon are just trying to avoid the team fight altogether right now. I mean, 2 games in a row we've had 0-minute team fights basically. It's KP. Oh,
what is that sentry?
Hold on a minute. How'd that get there? Can you?
It didn't teleport it up.
I don't even know you could even put it there. I guess it would actually block the camp, which is funny because you can block it from the low ground, believe it or not.
Yeah, that's strange. Its body teleported up to the lower right corner of that camp as well. I mean, they do spot it out. Good use of the static remnant from Mikado to spot it, and at least the camp is opened up. Interesting. I've never seen that one, Mike. That's a keen one. I'm sure you'll try that out in your Pause 4 plays.
I won't, Jonathan. The thing is, Jonathan, is the enemy doesn't de-ward, so I don't need to try those sneaky spots. I could just put it right in the middle of the box. No problem. I know the other mid's not going to buy a sentry, John. Come on, we're in Southeast Asia. They're not going to buy wards. They don't know what those are. So let's get started with this laning stage, shall we? Mid lane, of course, Makoto is going to be against Lelouch, the Quap vs Storm matchup, which, you know, back in the day, John, you'd argue that Quap should be heavily favored in this matchup. Do you think it's still kind of the case here against the Storm?
I think it still is. Like, Quap has a good time just clearing out the wave, harassing back with a Scream of Pain. You could always go for the Shadow Strike as well, get some constant DPS and a little bit of healing on yourself. There's not much a Storm can do about that. Storm can't threaten with a Vortex at level 3 as well for the double overload hit, so you don't have that early laning spike for the Storm. That should mean Lelouch should have a pretty manageable lane. Rune control is important, but again, you also have the blink value point for Lelouch once he's 4, if he wants that, and should lead to an easier time just getting all the region he wants there.
We'll have a look at the side lanes as well, of course. Bot lane, Nevermind and Xavier's going to be against Hyde and Savage. Love to see me some Enchantress. Of course, the hero was nerfed recently in terms of the enchant. Do have to be a little bit more careful as to what creeps you do enchant, and in fact, Hyde is actually going to go right in for the heal rather than going for the level 1 enchant, and I kind of agree with that. You are up against DK and Grimstroke with the Medusa. Chances are you are not going to be able to get that aggressive with the enchant, so you're better off just being able to sustain the lane, I suppose, and just going for the right clicks instead.
You don't really have your large camp to play with as well. We are seeing Mikado drop low in mid, as mentioned. Quap has a better time. Lelouch does go for level 2 Shadow Strike, but that just means Mikado can't even walk up to the creep wave to drop a remnant to clear it out. So it's tougher for him to find that CS, and that should lead to a strong start for Lelouch. Even if it doesn't amount to too much CS, it should be a lot of EXP going his way.
Well, Hyde gets caught out there down a bot lane, John. Xavier's able to land with the Inkswell into the Stroke of Fate and does go for the first blood here on the Grimstroke, so happy days for him. Definitely a very nice start here against the Enchantresses. This is meant to be a lane-dominant kind of hero, but giving away a first blood like that, not going to feel very good for Hyde.
Yeah, it's not the start you'd want. I think you're still getting what you seek, though, as you're having an easier time for Savage in comparison to Natsumi.
Yeah, Natsumi gonna try and go for a run, but does get caught out by the scatter blast of Q. Right on the edge, but it was enough damage to get the job done. Natsumi, a much bigger kill than, say, finding Hyde on the edge. Though, as I say that, Savage now in trouble. Not too much trouble, though. Just trying to get some harassment back the way of Nevermind, but ultimately is gonna be just fine.
Yeah, and I think you're fine with that trade for Talon. Hyde's doing his job, just intercepting, making the lane easier for Savage to build up. Your Medusa still having a great time in CS, just up there in the top 2, kind of tied up with Lelouch. Lelouch is going for a bit of a sneaky bounty steal, something that the Quap can do with the early blink up, and that's just going to cut even more resources away from Mikado. He's still not having a great time mid. He's finding his own CS. He is going to need some good rune control here.
Hyde. Bot lane again. Did try to back off in time, but no, he's going to get caught out a second time as Xavier's. Going to give him a second tip already during this laning stage. Another pretty rough affair for Hyde.
Yeah, it's tough, right? Like, you're not playing with Enchant, you don't have the large camp to play with, all the impactful creeps aren't showing up for you because you haven't gotten D-Ward. Xavius is just able to play with that doubled stun. Just Dragon Tail into Inkswell every time. You can just find a nice, easy kill. Hyde does work his way towards mid, not really able to give a bottle refill to Mikado, but Mikado does find a water and get some good damage onto Lelouch. Xavius is forced to pick up his own water rune as well because Hyde's around, so no top-up for Lelouch, and that should give room out.
Q was just chasing forever, John. I thought there was no way in hell he finds that kill, but oh, he's even going to find the courier now. TMB loses his hero, loses his courier. It's just not good news. He's probably even lost the lane. Natsumi?
And it's already been a slow start for Natsumi. He's going to have the spin if he wants to chase, but can't really fully commit onto Q, and KP's off to a really strong start. Having these strong starts on the side, Mike, having the Brewmaster and the Deuce just farm up really well, get their EXP, they're going to hit some really good spikes. Like, once you have that split on KP, he can just threaten across the map. Mikado is still holding his mid well, despite that earlier back and forth with Lelouch. And despite the couple of kills for Polaris, the kills that the Talon have found do feel a little bit bigger. I think if you're Polaris right now, you have to be a bit cautious. Your momentum from the offlane for Nevermind, it's a blink timing for the DK. And that's still a long ways off considering how well Savage's lane has been going here.
It certainly is. Interesting to note, John, Mikado on that storm having a pretty good time considering the fact that he was struggling against the Quap. Like, perhaps a lot of that CS is going to be from the jungle anyway, but the fact that he is on top of the CS board is certainly good news. Doesn't feel like Lelouch has had exactly the kind of impact he was hoping for against the storm. So you are going to have the bottle refill out from Q, so Mikado can stick around, but in the meantime, bot lane, Savage going to be in danger. He's going to pop the mana shield, and that will be just enough to save him. Hyde going to be able to salve him up and give him another chance at this laning stage, but Savage, without mana now, has to be very cautious, as the salve is going to be cancelled off. And Savage, he'll remain on half HP. He's really going to try and avoid that initial stun out from Nevermind now.
Just have to play safe, hold the lane, just keep farming up. Hyde does have a level 2 enchant, so he could try to be aggressive. Still doesn't have his large camp, though. Has a sentry on hand. It does feel like we're skipping past that point where the early creeps are going to have massive presence, considering how tanky Nevermind is as well. You are seeing some really big stacks being built up here by Polaris. TMV managed to set that up and Natsumi able to clear it early with a spin. So a lot of good farm coming through for Polaris to recover from the slower laning phase. And Talon not in a position to contest early. They are kind of keeping things even. A much more even start for both sides. Neither side really finding a massive win so far from laning. You could argue Talon's having a slightly better time with the kills. Again, not the biggest lead. So still have a lot to play for here.
Mikado, after TMV now, is going to drop the coddle. Nice pick off there for Mikado. Does manage to... I don't believe he got the power rune he wanted, but it won't really matter too much. He does secure the kill. And with that, he just keeps it up, top the net worth board. And again, I'm quite shocked by this. Like, I thought Lelouch would have a much better time, but the Mikado just too damn good right now on this storm.
He managed to hold the lane well. I think the early rotations out and missing out on that water rune earlier on for Lelouch was pretty big, just because it was all really hinging on regen, right? Like, it kind of just boils down to who gets the top up their bottle, who gets to spam out their spells. We were seeing that aggression out from Lelouch. making great use of his Shadow Strike, but at some point you can just clear out. You've got the levels in the Overload, you can still walk up in Static Remnant, get some good hits off, and you're at the point where you're triple null on Storm. You don't need much more beyond that, Mike. You're kind of set to go here for Mikado. Of course, the Orchid that the panel mentioned would be big if he wants it. We'll see if he'll go for it after Power Treads, as you tend to just go for a BKB anyway.
Yeah. Happy days. Natsumi still being kind of stalked here by Q. Could be okay to back off. Mid lane now, Makoto could be in a spot of danger. Xavius has shown up on the Grimstroke, but not going to be able to get anything done here. I think he wanted to fill up the bottle of Lelouch, but Lelouch actually ended up chasing down the Storm instead. Maybe not. Maybe he wasn't coming from the fountain. I'm not 100% sure, but it seems like nothing gets done.
No, you miss out on an opportunity to just leverage a little bit more regen. They do get the power rune under their control in Polaris' end, and they will smoke up off the back of it. It is an Invis. They have a good angle to find a backline here up top. KP does have the split, though. Pretty tough target to go for if they want that. Gonna hunt for Savage instead.
Yeah, into the Medusa they go, but Savage, he's gonna back off at the right moment. Chances are he'd still be too tough of a kill to get right now anyway with the mana shield up. But he is rotating back into the mid lane, so perhaps they still have a shot at this. Savage. Go with the Mystic Snake, and in fact, Lelouch, he's going to back out of there. So they are not going to attempt to jump in. And with that, Talon, they'll be just fine to keep the farm up. Mind you, Polaris, they are still farming very well on their own end of things. The only person ahead of them right now is going to be Makoto on the Storm, but you are still against the Medusa at the end of the day. Eventually, Savage is going to be able to overtake everybody.
Yeah, and that's the one issue. They catch TMV out with a split from KP. A simple kill to pick up on the Coddle as they still manage to secure their stacks. There is a good sentry drop by TMV before falling. So he does block the large camp and prevents that massive buildup for Deduce to clear out down the line, while giving some space out for Natsumi still to play in that top jungle. Still no forward wards out from the side of Talon to spot that farming pattern of the Jug. So that buildup is still there for Natsumi. He is going for the Maelstrom first. He does want to be aggressive here, while having some farm impact as well. And the side of Talon has to be a bit cautious. Rotation's coming up top. They know the split's down.
Yeah, KP going to be the target surely as Natsumi is going to rush in with the Inkswell as KP tries to go for a run but does get stunned up. Still the TP away immediately out and he's going to be fine. Yeah, they just don't have a follow-up stun. Just TP.
Yeah, and we saw that as an issue for Talon last time, where, you know, Savage would chase someone down and they just TP out. This time around, you don't have the best stuns on Polaris' lineup at all. Like, you have Dragon Tail, you have Inkswell, and that's pretty much it. So it's going to be a tough thing to counteract until you maybe get a value Yule's out or something on Lelouch. He is going for the Orchid first in the Quap, so that's going to be a good source of jumping the Storm, punishing him before his own protective items, but Mikado's just kind of taking it slow, working towards zone's BKB. The good news for Polaris, though, they've got some room to shove in bot with a Dragon form up and Nevermind, but he's not in the safest spot right now if Talon does want to commit. Mikado's still hanging around here.
They've got backup though. Hyde going to be focused down first as they are going to move in with the Inkswell, but Makoto right into the Dragon Knight with the Mortimer's Kisses. They've got plenty of damage. They'll take him out. So Makoto, he wants Avius as well. They completely ignore Natsumi. They'll let the Jug run. He had the spin available, but Makoto setting up for a double here on the Storm, just doing God's work for Talon. They will be 6-2 now with a 2k net worth advantage. And Polaris, for now at the very least, do not have the answers.
And they're managing to buy a lot of space for Savage now as well from Talon's movement. Savage is just hanging around mid, playing in the triangle, getting all the farm in the world. The Deuce is building up massively, overtaking the Jug now. And that's not something the Jug can keep up with easily. He will have Maelstrom to kind of close that gap, but we heard Fear say it in the panel, right? They need to play quick here on Polaris. They need to take these objectives fast with the healing ward, with the Dragon form. Their bot push was already kind of cut off, and they're just not able to fully commit. They're having to drag nearly their entire lineup just to find that bot tier 1. That's a lot of room for Talon to make plays elsewhere.
Down to the bot tier 1 they go. Polaris trying to get some work done here, but in the meantime, mid lane's being forced in by Talon. They've got to try and find a way to defend that. Lelouch, he'll make the rotation in on the Queen of Pain. You've always got the Keeper of the Light to just keep that lane pushed out constantly, and that they will abuse. But the top lane's even being forced in here by Talon. So at least you are going to have a bit more of an even trade coming out here for Polaris as they do find the bottom tier 1 tower, but you are starting to see that kind of aggression coming out again from Talon that we saw in game number 1, and they are certainly looking a lot more confident in this game number 3. And you look at the net worth, John, Savage, he's overtaken again.
At the top now, and he's been ahead of Natsumi for some time. He's gotten so much space on that Dusa. No one from Polaris has been hunting him down. They do spot KP out at least, but he's still a very tanky target with a Primal Split ready to go. And the aggression from Polaris just feels limited. They need that blink up and running on Nevermind just to have that initiation along with a Quap and a combination with Xavius. Until that point, it's just not very clear for them to take these fights.
KP's having a field day. Top lane, he sees the support. He'll pop the Primal Split. Just go ahead and take a free kill for himself. Absolutely no issues here for KP. And the mid lane is still being forced in. I mean, Savage just standing there hitting the tier 1 tower. Just something you don't generally see as a POS 1. Especially a Medusa just sitting there just hitting towers 13 minutes into the game. But I suppose he can do this. And that's exactly what he'll do. Just keep going. Along with Hyde, who does rotate in. KP, he will take all the attention away as they do chase down the Brewmaster. It'll be a nice kill if they can find it. KP does end up dropping, but Talon do find the mid-tier 1. I think that's still a better trade for Talon.
It's definitely a better trade. They managed to take a nice objective. They force out the Omni Slash from Natsumi as well. So your Jug's not going to be joining any of these fights, at least for the next 2 minutes. You really need that Omni Slash for some early presence, unless you're already winning and you can just play with a spin. Polaris, they haven't been able to get any aggression on any other tower beyond bot. Right? They take that bot tier 1, and it took 4 heroes. They can't make moves onto mid. Savage is just growing a bit too big for them to handle. Yasha and Dragonlance already up 7.1k net worth in comparison to Natsumi's 6.3. And you're slowly but surely hitting that point where Mikado gets a BKB here, Mike. And triple null BKB, power treads, plus bottle. That's all the Storm really needs. Maybe at that point you could go for that Orchid to just get that additional control onto the Jug, stop that spin. But even then, like, your lockdown for the Storm isn't quite there. The Blink is up for Nevermind. And Polaris will smoke around that, maybe try to get a nice gank with that fresh item up.
They better try. Polaris, they'll make their way over. Towards the mid they go. Savage gonna get stunned up. That's a great target if they can take it down with the Sonic Wave. Double damage. Everything been thrown at Savage. He's still alive. Makoto, he'll make the jump in. They found Lelouch. On the Queen of Pain, he is gone. This TMB, he's gonna try to run. So will the rest of the team, but... Well, like I said earlier, John, I don't think they quite have enough damage for the Medusa.
No, I mean, they committed everything. The damage output wasn't enough. Even the Sonic Wave clipped Savage at the end, but he's got level 3 mana shield. He's got some decent stats. It's hard to pin him down, and that was the Blink reveal as well on Nevermind, not amounting to too much. At the least, Nevermind still has Dragon Form, so they can play around that, maybe look to regroup and take mid. But as this game kind of slows down in pace, and Talon just gets to play on the defensive, and Savage just grows big and bigger, the Jug just... Again, he can't keep up in the same way. The build-up is coming true. Yasha's gonna be up next for Natsumi. Number 3 net worth, not too bad. But that difference will keep growing. The Maelstrom, again, speeds up your process, but it's no split shot in comparison, and Savage just has free reign over his own side of the river.
He does. Scary, scary times here for Polaris as now they're 6k net worth behind. And you heard here on that panel, John, the net worth is more important than drafts, that's for sure. We saw last game as well as now Xavius gonna get caught out, but in the meantime, Savage and Makoto, they're gonna move it onto Nevermind. They'll try onto the DK. Nevermind, he's not really that tanky. He does get taken down, no problem. At the very least, Xavius gets himself out in the Grimstroke, but you lose a bigger target. It's just not great news for Polaris Esports.
It's definitely not. I mean, they're trying to take away that farm down bot. They don't have the most aggressive forward vision. They've got this nice ward of parallel, kind of parallel to the tier 2, but it's not giving them the clear information they need. They jump Savage, they get punished, they don't have vision in the low ground. Mikado was in position to counteract. He still has his fresh 9-second charge. KP.
Lelouch, they're trying to KP. Makoto zips right in with a BKB up now. He can go right for the Quap. He won't quite find it though. Lelouch, he's going to be able to survive. In fact, Polaris, they might try to counter-initiate, knowing Makoto has his BKB down. KP gonna be spotted. Never mind, he'll move in. There's your Orchid out. KP, he does have Primal Split, but he needs a bit more time for it. He might just have it. There's just Sonic Wave, but no! He gets the Primal Split in time. They don't have the damage. And in they go for the team fight. Hyde is still around and should eventually go down. They did not have a sentry ward jump, but it won't matter. They get the damage. Still, it's gonna be a bit of a shame that they do not find KP.
That was nuts. KP got the split off. I think he had 40 HP right as he split on the edge, but if you don't find those kills, you commit a lot. And Mikado looking for a turn.
Right, Silence is there. Makoto gonna pop his BKB, does opt to go after Xavius instead. We'll take it. Now the BKB charge going down, but he's certainly making great use of it as Lelouch gonna try and chase down Makoto, but he's just perfectly fine. No pressure. Is Talon? I mean, they've grouped up, but they're gonna go for a smoke. Surely not. And they won't.
No, just looking, maybe expecting Polaris would try to make a jump, knowing that the BKB's down in the storm and the splits down on KP. Would have been a pretty good time to try to get the angle with your Blink Dragon Tail Inkswell combination. Polaris will just take things slow, go back, farm up, but get that build up on Natsumi. He is going for the Sanjin Yasha now with that Maelstrom, so a little bit more stat resist, a little bit more forward presence. He doesn't have a great way of dealing with the Medusa though. No diffusal build up on our Jug. He can easily farm up, maybe start to spin on top of other heroes, but if Savage does choose to join these fights, the Medusa, even with just a 1k net worth lead, does feel a lot bigger. And you're still getting that gold trickling in for KP and Mikado. Like, Ags isn't too far off now for KP as long as this game keeps its pace up. Once you have that double split, the split charges up, I don't know if you can even kill KP. I mean, he barely lived last time, but barely is enough to have some impact, and you're gonna have to try to do it against him with 2 charges up. For Polaris, it does feel like that early time is kind of slipped up here, Mike. They haven't been able to push as much as they'd want to around their Jug DK. They're just kind of forced to play this slower farming game, and that's where Talon shines with Medusa on their side.
Top lane. Never mind. Use the fireball to sit back and relax, but there is certainly some pressure incoming. Talon gonna move in once again. Looking around, trying to find a target. Top lane, never mind TMV, they are still around here. The Cinderbrew does connect. KP is gonna know the keeper of the line is around, but never mind. Also was spotted there for a second, but does get the blink out. Instead, TMV is going to be the one to suffer as Hyde does take the kill. And it's into the top T2 tower they go. And for Polaris, there's just no way to fight back right now. They just don't have what it takes.
We're going to have to just surrender to tier 2. This opens up Roshan in a big way for Talon.
Oh, Makoto trying for the co-op. Lelouch will take the Invis rune, or rather Illusion rune for himself. But like you said, John, Roshan's open now for Talon, and Polaris, they just haven't had a response to any of the aggression.
No, they're just, again, opting to get that build-up onto Natsumi. And the Jug will have impact if he does manage to find a good angle for the Omni Slash, get his shards up. Blade free damage does skyrocket at that point with your itemization. But it still feels like it doesn't match Savage. The Scotty's almost done for Savage, just lacking that point booster next. And once that's up and running, your healing's going to be down. The healing ward's not going to be sustaining you as much. The DK feels a bit softer. KP has Axis up in 2 parts. I mean, for players, they still need something. They need to be able to play aggressive. They need to play with Nevermind's Blink Stun, along with Lelouch's burst damage. If they don't manage to do that, then I think dragging this game out. Their high ground defense isn't particularly amazing, right? Like, you don't have these big teamfight spells and a choke point that feel great. Whereas for Talon, you're going to be dealing with Storm Ags down the line, the double split from KP, his level 20 talent spike swallow, the Brewling's health means that he's going to be alive even more in the middle of these engagements, and Talon knows that. They can choose to be aggressive with just 3 heroes on the board and maybe try to play with that smoke.
Oh, Lelouch getting stunned up in big trouble. Is going to try and make it through this one, but there's so much damage to come out. Makoto able to take another on the Storm, and they might just be able to keep going. TMV, Xavius, they do back off at the right moment, but they've lost their mid-quap. And KP's looking around for a bit more now. I think Xavier's there for a moment. They'll try for the chase in onto the Brewmaster. They've got him locked down. They might just have him as the Soul Bite. He's going to lock them down to boot. Hyde trapped him with him. Omni Slash to come out. Natsumi suddenly with a double kill out onto the Jug. And it seems like this time Talon, they get a bit too overly confident. And Polaris Esports are able to punish thoroughly.
Yeah, it's a nice kill to pick up. There's a DD for Savage to pick up here, though. And, you know, you kill off the Brewmaster, you kill off the Enchantress. You need every single kill here for Polaris. It's still not the big ones that you want. But at least Natsumi's getting that build-up he needs, going for the Mjolnir next. So just a little bit more presence in the middle of these fights and a little bit of quicker farming as well coming through for the Jug. Mikado hanging around up top. He is playing near areas of control. There's some good vision here from Polaris, so has to be a bit cautious on the Storm.
Oh, they see him. Makoto gonna get stunned up. This would be a massive pick-off for Polaris now, and they've got him. Something they desperately needed. Lelouch is finally able to get a bit of sweet, sweet revenge here onto the Storm, and that's actually going to put a stop to the Roshan that was happening here by Talon. They won't be able to keep going.
Yeah, they need the Storm to kind of ensure they've got angles onto the back line to take that fight. Really good forward ward coming in from Polaris on the low ground, hanging behind that small camp, giving just the necessary vision to catch out Mikoto. And that does turn the tide. It's the big kill they needed. They managed to hold on. They get control back on their top jungle. Respawn isn't the longest though. Savage, double damage is going to run out, so they can't fully commit for that Roche even after backing out. At this point, Talon, I mean, they've got split back up if they want to play in about 8 seconds with a respawn, and Savage does make his way back in with Hyde. Polaris does have a good ward watching that lower area, but they don't walk into the vision. So it's still a bit blind for Polaris, and if they don't move quick, this is going to be the first Roche for Talon. 2 lives on Savage is going to be massive.
It certainly will be. Talon will be taking this one for free, it seems, as Polaris just have no idea it's happening. Well, they might have an idea, but they may just feel like they can't fight this. It certainly feels like they should be fighting it if they did know, but they are by the triangle right now, just kind of farming up as the Roshan does go down the other way. Polaris almost looked like they were trying to group up for a smoke here, but it is not going to work out for them now. And keep in mind, like, fighting into this Medusa with an Aegis up now, it's going to start to feel rather impossible. The Savage continues to get more and more tanky. And eventually it's just going to get to a point where it feels like Natsumi just won't have enough damage.
Yeah, I mean, for the Jug to kind of keep up here, you want to be at least at network parity, right? Like, you're not a hero that can overwhelm Medusa with less items than her. So you want, you know, Scotty to be up. You kind of want your Ags in this game. You want that Swift Slash to just have more uptime, and maybe something like a Basher to just get some additional control through, especially once the BKBs are up. It's still a long ways off for any of that to be up on Natsumi. He's still working towards that Scotty first, and as Savage has done this past game, like, he's just standing outside tower range, chipping away at the objectives, ensuring that everyone else is behind him. And Polaris knows it's a very obvious bait. They're not going to jump, but they also can't defend. So it's just free objectives in the end for Talon. That's more than enough for them to be happy.
On top lane, Xavius not going to get caught. KP trying to have a look around. Does almost have his Aghanim Scepter up now on the Brewmaster. Things could get even more tough, but it seems like Talon are thinking about going high ground. With the Aegis available, it doesn't feel like there's much to be worried about here against Polaris. They might just wait for those core items to come up, though, before they do make the commitment. You'd rather have the 2 charges of the Primal Split if you can. Though it is going to give a bit more time here for Natsumi to try and keep up and catch up with 23 Savage. As he does work on towards his Eye of Skadi now on that Juggernaut. But even then, I just question where the damage output's going to come from. And how to make matters worse now, there's a double damage rune down to the bot rune spot. So if you're Talon and you see that, it feels like you just go high ground immediately. And Makoto, he's seen it.
Yep, picks it up. They can just look to push in. They've still got bot towers to push. Savage, again, just soloing this, knowing that no one's going to be able to contest him on that Dusa. Takes a tier 1 for free. He's going to TP out. They're forcing fight up top.
Yeah, they've got the Coddle once again. TMB dying for the 5th time this game as they go for a bit more. Never mind. Gonna try for the TP out. Should be able to make it just fine and does. They don't have the Vortex this time around. But again, it's the side of Talon that are in complete control of this game number 3. Polaris just unable to make really any kind of movement here as a team. It feels like all the eggs are just in the Natsumi basket, and it's not a very good basket, John. It's quite a fragile basket, in fact. The Savage is going to show up. We'll just get started into the tier 3 mid tower.
Yeah, he's got Aegis up for 2 more minutes. Not much to really stop him. Fortify on Fortify just to clear out the creep wave. But that gives Savage's opening. Like, the next creep wave isn't too far off. There's some time.
Savage get chased down. Natsumi he's gonna be able to back his way out with the spin, but that's about all he could do. In the meantime, KP with the axe up is just gonna keep them at bay. There's no real reason to even start the fight. He could literally just keep them away from the racks and let Savage just keep going to work. That'd be one split down. Savage, he'll just keep going. No problems here for the Deucer. They're just casually going to wait for someone to try and jump in onto the Deucer as Savage does finally get jumped by Nevermind. They've got to commit though. Natsumi, he's going to try with the spin out, but it does nothing. They've only burnt through the mana of Savage. He's still got the Aegis up and ready to go. He's going to stick around for that mid lane of Barracks. They've committed nothing thus far, Natsumi. He's going to try again, and this time they might find the Aegis, and they will. That's one life. The mid Barracks, though, falling very, very low now, and it looks like they might even just try to deny it off, and they will. TMB, he'll deny himself. You've got to take every win you can get, John, and that's a win for the side of Polaris right now.
Yeah, it's a little gold you're taking away. The effect is, the damage has been done for Talon though. Super creeps on the melee is going to be nice to keep that wave shoved in. They've got a constant issue to kind of pressure back on Polaris. They do have really good D-push with the Keeper of the Light though, so it shouldn't be too bad in managing that lane. And they have taken out the Aegis, so Savage doesn't have that secondary protection. Might find a good angle here.
They may. They jump on. Natsumi, already with the spin out, is going to be able to get away. TMV, he's been the one that's really been struggling with this keeper, but he can run his own way out now. The Talon, they may not opt to go high ground again throughout the bot lane for this one, as they don't have the Aegis, but they can certainly just take the final out of tower. Nothing really stopped them doing that, and again, you have the Medusa. There's just no rush. Makoto, he's going to zip right through by himself onto the Dragon Knight. Never mind, he's taking a fair bit of damage here. Is the cookie's going to land as well? Savage, he's got the control. In the meantime, though, KP gets silenced up, and with a big Sonic Wave, they might have him, and they do. They've got the Brewmaster down, but Savage, he'll just keep going. Natsumi needs a way out of this, but it looks like he's got nothing to get out. He's probably just going to drop a no, the Glimmer Cape. It does allow him to spin his way out just in the nick of time. Instead, they'll go after Nevermind. They'll go for the tieback on the Dragon Knight, and they might just have him. Nevermind trying to fly away, but he is going right back down. Dieback for Nevermind. All they find is KP. Let's see if they can defend high ground here.
Ooh, really aggressive.
He's been very good with the Scatter Blast stunts, John, as they lose now. Force the BKB up. Makoto, he'll zip right away. And Savage, he's not really afraid. He'll just keep whacking away at people. KP, he's going to be back up with 2 more charges of that Primal Split. But they aren't going to rush anything. They'll happily back out. They'll control the map once again, and hell, they might be able to keep going. There's a Dragon Knight down for 35. Again, 2 Primal Split charges here for KP. It's not like they're lacking control. And here we go. They will commit. Natsumi, try with the Inkswell to deal with the Brewlings, but KP does not really give a crap, as TMB now going to get caught out on the Coddle, but is going to be fine to back his way out as they lose. She's still just trying to do with the Brewlings of KP. Natsumi just has no way into the team fight. All he can do is spin. They do at least defend the Barracks, but they do lose the top tier 3 tower.
Yeah, they've got a pretty nice tool here on Polaris to kind of hold their high ground. They've got that Dark Portrait up on Xavius, Axis up and running on a Grimstroke. So you can turn that Deuce against the enemy team. How much it can really give you, though, is a different question. You've got the Enchantress on hand. You've got some good damage to burn through the illusion if you want to. Talon can just kind of take it slow. There are 2 lanes now. Polaris is going to have to constantly defend if the creep wave does get shoved in. And Talon can just wait for the next Roshan, knowing that Polaris is going to be caught up, balancing their lanes back in control. If they do manage to get that next Roche once more without contestation from Polaris, that's when it gets kind of dicey for the side of Polaris.
Lelouch, Scatter Blast is going to connect. The Cookie's not, though. Makoto, he was patient with the Vortex. The Cookie just not getting there quick enough.
Yeah. Big kill to miss out on. Some time wasted by Talon. At the same time, they still have really good control of the top jungle. They weren't really dragged away from that fight. They are trying to go here, though.
Yeah, KP, he's going to be the target. He's got Primal split up. In fact, he might have to in just a moment. A Savage will happily go on to Nevermind, who's just not a tanky dragon. He will drop. As KP goes for a bit more now. They know Xavius and TMB are around. There's your Primal split up. They want the chase. They might just have it as well. It's KP, who are we finding? Tornado is there onto Xavius, so they've got the Grimstroke locked down. Savage, he'll move in. Xavius getting stunned up immediately is probably going to drop as they go for the Omni Slash, trying to get something. They at least find Hyde. They even found Q. It's not a bad team fight, as they even got KP. Everyone just kind of get blown up there. In fact, what was the damage from? Was that the Dark Portrait, John?
It might have been. The Illusion was doing some good work. I think they just managed to stack on and drag Talon a bit too far back. Mikado was not in that area as well to help playing around. It looks like Mikado just wants to wait for his full ags before fully committing in these wider engagements. He is about 400 gold away. So I can get why the Storm wasn't quite in the area to give you that additional control. But Talon did overextend without their big playmaker to deal with the backline, and that does keep Polaris in the game. They take back the outpost. There's a minute left until Roshan. The Dark Portrait is doing a lot of work if they can't burn it down fast enough on Talon's end. And then they've got to respect that output. They've got to respect the fact that Savage has a ton of farm that can work against him, although Natsumi's far forward.
Yeah, onto the Coddle. That'll be TMB gone. Natsumi in the meantime, he's going to be able to spin TP up. Makoto, he's got the Ags on the way, I believe, here, John. Very concerning signs with the AoE Vortex to come out. The Polaris, they did a great job of defending that top lane of Barracks initially, but now with that added control, see how they go. Roshan's going to be up in 30 to boot. And if you're Polaris, you really cannot afford to let this Roshan go down for free. Not this time around.
You definitely can't. You do have the Ags as well here on Savage, so the middle of these team fights can get chaotic once the BKB starts to flow down. And Roshan is opening up. Talon has good control of the area. There is still that forward ward here from Polaris on behind that medium camp, so they've got the information to kind of deal with it, but does get taken out by Talon. They've got the gem up on Mikado, and that should open up the rush. Does spawn back. Polaris, they've got to find an angle that works here, Mike. We've seen them win a couple of these team fights now, but that was on the high ground. Going out of their base, trying to get into that Roche pit, it's a lot tougher. They are grouped up for the smoke, though.
They are. They're going to try, but Roshan has been halted as KP, who's going to break the smoke. Again, 2 Primal Split charges, but they're going to try and blow him up before that even happens. Makoto, he'll go into the backside, trying to get the Grimstroke and KP. He'll get the Primal Split off. They are in trouble once again here for Polaris, as Nevermind is going to drop. He does not have buyback. Natsumi, he'll go for the Omni Slash, but it's not doing too much to them. Q with the Yules does save himself, but Natsumi trying to get out of there, but Makoto's going to jump right back in with the Vortex out. TMB and Xavius is gone. Natsumi, he's the only one left. In fact, they've got Lelouch around with a big Sonic Wave, but it's not going to do nothing. It does absolutely nothing. With that, Talon, they might just be able to go high ground once again.
Yeah, pinks are coming out for top. Creep Wave's still a bit far off on the mid and top lane, though, so backdoor is going to be up for quite a while. And that does mean that Talon's not going to be able to find that cleanup they want. Roshan is still open for them. There is now that cliff ward coming through from Polaris, though. So they'll be able to spot the next Roche attempt. But that was a great play from Talon. They back off from the Roshan. They knew a smoke was coming out. They managed to get the angle. KP breaks and forces the attention on himself and lives long enough that he just gets the split off. He only had to use 1 split as well. Roche does begin in earnest for Talon. Again, the information is there for Polaris, but now they definitely can't come in. No Jug, only the Quantum DK, no Grimstroke for the combination, and the Dark Portrait. That is going to be the second Roche going the way of Talon, along with that free Ag Shard. Could just pass it on to Savage. He's got the Ag, so having that Mystic Snake bouncing around, stoning more people up in the little fight is going to be big. They pass it onto... Who did they pass it? Mikado? high.
Well, Savage has got the Aegis. Makoto, yeah, I think Makoto's got the shards up.
All right, yeah.
All right.
Just give Overload to Savage. Have him hit and get even more damage off, you know? No problem.
Why the hell not? KP, move in. Orchid is there from Lelouch. Zip Vortex is there, Makoto. Immediately onto Nevermind. Does blow quite a bit of his mana for that, though, as Nevermind is actually going to be able to survive with that one. Natsumi now, right in the middle with that spin out. Still needs to respect Savage and his damage, but with the spin is feeling rather safe. The Omni is going to be back up in 5 seconds to play with, but they've got the top racks, and that might just be enough. Savage, he'll take his own shards up now as well. And that'll be about it. Polaris, they're just unable to defend.
Yeah, they've just got to hold while they can. They still have one good lane to play with. Bot lane still fairly intact. Tier 2 still stands. They can make that their launching point. But they are 20k behind, 23 to 12. Coming out here for Talon. Smoke out from Polaris. We tried to catch Talon off their guard here.
Polaris, we're going to try and find a way into this fight. It's
Good
very
scan.
tough, and what a great scan out. Smoke broken, they're going to have to try hide. He's got the Glimmer Cape out, they'll still try to focus him down, but Savage is going to get right to work. Vortex is out, Makoto! He's got all 4 of them, and they are just going to melt! Oh boy, Makoto! Right in the middle, as they found Natsumi as well. I mean, you don't have to call it, but it's pretty rough after that one, John.
Oh, it's a rough one. They've got buybacks. No Omni Slash and Natsumi means he can't really do much in the middle of this next fight. Doesn't have the Ag for the Swift Slash. Doesn't have his Basher up yet. Is going to be forced to buy back. That might be enough to put Talon and, you know, play it a little bit more safe. Go for the tier 3 down bot and the racks instead. They're still in a very strong position. Next split still about 20 seconds away. But you still have the Aegis for almost 3 minutes here on Savage. He has a lot he can play for.
Yeah, certainly so. It's a very hard defense now. Polaris, they're going to try and move in as Natsumi chips away a little bit, but you've got the Aegis up on Savage. Polaris still trying their best to just chip away at the Deucer. Talon, they've actually got the Swift Blink to come out on Savage, so it seems like they're going to play a bit safer. Just back off for now. 31k net worth advantage, though, here for Talon. Polaris, they're the ones that need to find a way to try and fight back.
Yeah, it's tough. Like, their high ground defense isn't amazing. It does feel like they work best when they're on the offensive here in Polaris. That they get a good Dragon Tail Inkswell combo. They get a good double Dark Portrait on the Deuce +1. And that's when the fights can turn for them. Just finding that angle is difficult. That smoke was great, but the scan was even better out from Talon to figure out that movement and just catch them off guard, giving that opportunity for Makoto to get that huge Vortex off. Their high ground hold, I mean, with a Dark Portrait, it is there. They can clear out the creep wave as much as they want as well. The Aegis timer is running a bit low now on Savage. Minute and a half left, so they've got to make that move quick here on Talon if they want to just get the Megas and try for the end. We'll see what the decision is, though. Still in a very comfy spot for Talon. They don't necessarily have to force it out. I don't think Polaris is going to be able to outscale them if they miss this opportunity on the high ground. But you don't want to give chances here.
You've got a regen rune available, Makoto, John. It's such a hard team fight now. Then they jump Savage with the Swift Blink. It's right to work. Nevermind in the meantime, trying to deal with the Brewlings. But here comes Makoto again with the Vortex out. He's got the Grimstroke. The Kisses are there to boot. Polaris, they're just trying to get back to the fountain, but they can't even do that. Maybe they find Makoto, but no, the Glimmer Cape. It's going to save the day as Natsumi. He can't get the job done. He'll try onto Q. Just get the Snapfire, but not even that's going to happen. Q will survive. The Jug's gone. Nevermind is gone, and it seems like Polaris are gone. Tips out for Xavius. Xavius, to be fair, John, he was tipping a lot during that laning stage. He'll pay for it as they finally lose to boot. That's over. Talon have got the 2-1 victory here against Polaris Esports for their Series 1 of the SCA DPC tour number 3. And I'm sure I'm about to see a very, very happy JohnXfire.
Oh, you will, Mike, and you'll see a very happy set of Talons up there as well. Look at them all cheering up. Brando in the background, Mr. Brameezy, Nate, Sophie, the whole gang is out. First DPC game for Talon in Div 1, and goes very well. Game 2 was a bit rough, and props to Polaris.
Thank you. Why is Q so upset?
Yeah, I died once, you know. I died with a huge streak. That shouldn't have happened, Q saying. But, you know, Talon did great. Polaris, they put up a good fight. They went in, they had a good game plan. The Ags rush from Xavius was impactful, but it's one of those things with Polaris, right? We talk about this with Xavius. He's been doing this for years, but he's a very greedy 4. Every hero he plays on 4, he waits for a big item. This time around, Grimstroke, he was like brown boots Ags, right? Whereas other 4s tend to itemize in the middle, like Q goes for blinks, goes for the shards, you know, has higher impact. For Polaris, it felt like their 4 was taking its time. They hit that Orchid timing on Lelouch, it could jump around and make plays, but they missed the earlier timing running around with a Jug and DK. They needed to get that push going. They needed to play with sustain from the healing ward, from the presence they had with Blink, Dragon Tail, Stun, and Inkswell. But they had to drag 4 heroes down bot to just clear out the tier 1, while Savage was playing across the map and Talon was making space with just 3 of their heroes. So I think Talon just managed to get the aggression their way. Polaris, the ideas were there, Mike. The execution, it was harder to pull off with this kind of draft, and it goes back to what you said. Jug, he's not a bad hero by any means, but not the greatest win condition to have around.
No, I certainly agree. I mean, I think it does go back to the draft here for Polaris. I think they're still a great team, and props to Talon. Don't flex your chest like that, dude. At least work out if you're going to do it. Jesus Christ.
Hey, I haven't though.
All right. Well, we are going to head off to a very short break, John. We've got a great series coming up. I mean, this is the series everyone's waiting for. Boom Esports against SMG. They went from the bad boys to just plain evil, Jonathan, and I think people really want to see how they go here against Boom Esports. So we are going to head off to a very short break, and right after that break, we'll be back with game 1 of this best of 3.
Fantastic showing there from Talon. They end up taking that series in a 2-1 fashion. Look, Fia, you said that you thought Talon were going to win if they didn't get snowballed in the lanes. Is that how exactly it went? Just like you predicted? You saw into the future?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I think for the most part, like Makoto had a really good game in the Storm. He was supposed to, on paper, lose his lane versus the Queen of Pain, but he won. And on top of that, everyone kind of knows Deuce is like the strongest late game carry. Juggernaut's not good versus Deuce in the late game. Pretty much all their heroes are bad versus Medusa. So they needed to stop Medusa in the early game, and they failed to do so. So as the game continued to progress, Medusa got bigger, and they just had no way to deal with her.
There was one moment, let's remember it fondly. Like, the group team smoke into like Inkswell, Dragon Knight stun onto Medusa under a tier 1 tower, Queen of Pain ult, everything under the sun dropped. And she barely took a single scratch. She just didn't die. They died in response. It was so sad. Like after that gank, I kind of just felt like Polaris were just gonna spiral into a loss.
Is this the one at 15
Yeah.
minutes?
It was 15 minutes, and Medusa was already topping.
Look at her net worth
top.
already right here. It's just like
Insane.
there's no counter to Medusa in this game. There's nobody counters her, and so she does get ahead like this. I was afraid that it would just be over, and they don't have any heroes to deal with her, and pretty straightforward Medusa gameplay here.
Okay, so you really don't feel like there was ever an opening for Polaris to sort of come back once those lanes were lost?
I didn't feel it. I also think it's really hard when you're playing a hero like Queen. I don't know if you feel this way, Fear, but like that gank mid showed and top when they were in the jungle, and like Queen ulted the Brew and couldn't kill him, and he gets off that split. It just feels like she's limited in the amount of damage she can do, especially if she's already behind. So I find it really hard for them to ever just kill anyone, because everyone got tankier and tankier. Her spells cannot just like burst through that anymore. It was rough, man.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure on Lelouch to shut down mid and snowball this game, but the fact that he just lost mid was a big deal for his team, because he did not get a snowball. The Storm got really large. They couldn't apply any pressure to Medusa, and then now you're just kind of like an underfarmed co-op running around the map.
If you are Polaris, what are you sort of taking away from this? What lessons do you want to be learning, and what sort of linings do you want to be looking at forward?
What to take away from this game? I think they should really...
Or series even, right? Not even just this game.
Yeah, I think they won game 2, right? And they did it in a very aggressive fashion. They tried to replicate that a little bit in the next games, but they were unsuccessful. So, like, kind of sitting down, like, talking to the coach or amongst each other, and just really find out, like, why is it in game number 2 our aggression paid off, and how can we replicate that in future games?
Okay. You get worried it's like a comfort thing, right? Because Natsumi was on his Nature's Prophet, and he did have like massive amounts of impact. You just need to... I always thought he was just one of the best like better players on that team. So whenever you can make him shine, it's like good. Maybe they're not. Maybe his other heroes that they were playing doesn't enable enough of that playstyle. I'm not sure.
But you'd like to see them have maybe a little bit more comfort as well.
Sure. Like last tour, we saw them really like expand their playstyles and like get much better. And you know they did come forth after just coming from Div 2, and that was great. So hopefully that adaptation throughout the season.
Yeah, well, speaking of Div 2, Talon came up from Div 2 last tour. This is their debut series in Division 1. So what hopes does this give for you guys? How excited are you for Talon throughout the rest of this DPC?
I mean, that's hella exciting, right? Like if Polaris came fourth last season, and this could potentially be like the middle part of the teams where like this series really matters about their like final standing. You know, Talon looking really, really strong. They maybe have this potential to go like all the way, take maybe a series from T1. We'll see. It could be really, really good. This is definitely something they needed.
You, Sophia?
Oh, I think T1's already a contender for like definitely top 4 of
Talon.
Yeah, Talon.
Yeah.
Sorry, Talon. I don't know what I said, but
like
Talon is in a good spot right now. I have high hopes for them in this tour, and I think they should be able to get a really good placing.
Yeah. Well, I'm interested to hear what one of the players has to say about this series, and luckily we've been able to grab 23 Savage joining us for an interview. 23 Savage, thank you so much for joining us. How are you today, and how are you guys feeling after that series win?
We feel great because it's our first match in Division 1, and we were like from Division 2, and it was a great start for us.
Yeah. I do want to know, I guess just on a general note, do you think you have something more that you want to prove now that you have come up from Division 2 into Division 1?
I'll prove I'm belonging here.
I look forward to seeing how you do that then throughout this tour.
Yeah, so my question for you will be, you guys ended up dropping game 2. What would you like consider the reason for why you lost game 2?
I think we didn't like answer the Enigma correctly, and our last pick Viper is not that good because we didn't ban NP, so it's we just didn't answer their strategy correctly.
Obviously, you guys had a role swap in your team. Q went to 4 now. I know he wasn't comfortable on 5. Was that like the main reason for the swap?
Yeah, Q is much better on 4, and Hyde is much better on 5.
Alright.
Why were they not playing those roles in the first place then?
I don't know. Just I don't know.
I want to know, for game number 3 with you guys, you know, it felt like you just really changed it up. You're playing a lot slower, not as aggressive as we saw in game 1 and 2. Was that an active decision, and why did you guys decide to play a little bit slower in game 3?
It depends on our heroes. Like, if you're Dusa, you know you're gonna win in the late game eventually. So it just depends on the draft.
Yeah, and we know that a patch is coming out later today or tonight. Is there anything specific you really want to see in it?
I hope the offlane will be like 5 years ago. Just or get sacked. Be a bitch for me, I guess.
All right, yeah, we'll make sure those ones make it into the patch note. But is there anything else you wanted to ask, Fia?
Yeah.
And no question, but I'm really respecting you as a TI winner.
Oh. Awesome. Well, 23 Savage, thank you so much for joining us. Congratulations again on the win on the debut series for you guys over on Talon.
Bye bye.
See ya.
Bye.
Ah, perfect.
That was
perfect.
hilarious, actually.
Yeah, I feel really bad. I didn't want to correct 23 Savage, but I was asking you if you had more questions for him. But you know what? Don't worry. That was really sweet. It was wholesome anyway. Yeah. All right. We're going to have to get 23 Savage on this broadcast just to ask him for to do the interviews for us from now on. But that is our first series done and dusted between Talon and Polaris. We have our second series coming up very soon, so make sure you stay around after this break.